kidnapper. We can do that one because I was lost from there. We can do,
Okay.
yeah, the
Okay,
kidnapper.
sure.
We
You
can
can do
do
that
that
one.
one.
All right.
Or the goalie and striker. Doesn't matter.
Okay, let's do the kidnapping ones.
Okay.
Okay, you understand what the tree is trying to say in terms of what it's representing?
Not exactly.
Okay, so the idea is that and people are moving in sequence.
Okay.
So it say we usually start from left to right or go from top to bottom. So we do
Okay.
left to right. So kidnappers most left. So the idea is the kidnapper first makes a decision whether to kidnap or not.
Okay.
And then once the kidnapper makes a decision, then the second player, here in this case the family, can either choose to pay or not.
Okay.
So it's sort of showing what the sequence of moves is.
Okay.
So, for example, it also shows that the family doesn't get to move if the kidnapper doesn't kidnap. Right? So the family only moves up here.
Okay.
So for example, like in class today, if the kidnapper had like 3 branches coming out of here, that would mean that the kidnapper had 3 strategies.
Okay.
If the family had 3, So it's a way of listing down everyone's strategies and when they get to move.
Okay.
And these are so-called terminal nodes. These are the result, the end, and that's why they have the payoffs on them.
Okay. You did say this is the second person, this is the first, right?
Yeah, and if there's any confusion, because sometimes it can be, because in this big tree, sometimes you forget who's first and who's second. You just write down like, kidnapper,
First and
family,
second. Okay.
right? Payoffs are. Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's that clear?
Yes.
So a lot of it is just getting used to what this means.
Okay.
Okay, so then there's essentially 2 important concepts. One is how to turn this into a strategic form game and find Nash equilibrium of that game. That's the first concept. So how to turn this into a matrix or strategic form game.
Okay.
A table.
But that's only if we're finding all.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And the other main concept is subgame perfection. Okay, so we'll do the first concept.
Okay.
So the first concept is it's kind of when I just explain them, I kind of blur them together, so it's maybe a little confusing. But yeah, you agree it's confusing, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think we did right here.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Oh, but the table. I thought I did the table.
Oh, I think you had it. Oh no, this
No,
is
that's
the
something
scenario,
else.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's do this one because I think it's maybe more relevant. So this is the serenade one, right?
Yes.
So one either just chooses to not ask or ask.
Okay.
Then 2 can go, and then 1 gets to let's see. I think 1 was up here. There's like a arrow up here.
Oh.
1 can either serenade or not. Okay, so that's the game. I think this is
okay.
when we did this. I think this is a fragment of something we did before. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So is it clear what the sequence is? Right. 1 person gets to.
Yes.
Then ask or not 2 goes or not. If 2 refuses, 1 gets to serenade or not. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the first concept is how to turn this into a strategic form game, and the main idea here is what a strategy is. A strategy is a complete contingent plan. Somewhere I think maybe I saw it in here.
So we would do a table instead of our usual setup?
Yeah, it would be, I mean, yeah, you would want to do a table. Where's it? I think I saw it somewhere. Anyway, so the key idea is that a strategy is a complete contingent plan. A complete contingent plan simply means a specification of what you do in every one of a person's nodes.
Okay.
So, this person 1 has this node here, either to ask or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then person 1 here also gets to serenade or not.
Okay.
So 1 actually has 4 strategies, whether to ask or not here, and serenade or not here. So just like you've written here, first node, ask, second node, serenade. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So these are what person 1's all strategies can be. 1 is to ask and serenade, 1 is to ask not. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can make a little legend, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so what about person 2? Person 2's
can refuse or go.
Yeah, so person 2 only has 1 node, so 2's are so much simpler, right? So she either just or he chooses to refuse or go. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so person 1 can ask or not, and then that would determine if he
Serenades or not.
yeah or not.
Okay, that's true. So the way to think about it is, again, a strategy is complete contingent plan. So it's clear why 1 has 4 strategies, right?
Right.
Okay, so
because these 2 ending ones.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So 2 only has 2 strategies because 2 only has 1 node. Okay, so it's a little bit. The reason it's a little bit unintuitive.
But 1 only has 1 node.
Nope, 1 has
oh,
this node
2.
and this node.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 only has 1 node. The reason reason it's a little non-intuitive is because you might say, why do I have to think about one does here if one
Right.
doesn't ask in the first place, right?
That's yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the question. And the answer to that is that if we were going to say one plays here, we have to explain why one plays here, right?
Okay.
One plays here because one thinks of what two will do if he asks, right? If he
Okay.
thinks, for example, two is going to accept, he will ask. Okay. All right. So one has to think about to explain why one plays not. We have to think about what two will do here, but what two does here depends on what one will think about will do here. See,
Okay.
so it's sort of all connected, and so that's why we have to kind of think of it in all one big thing. That's kind of the idea.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that's why we have all four strategies here. Okay,
Okay.
so then it's just a matter of once I have these, I just fill in these by going back to the table.
Okay.
If one plays not serenade, then we do this, right? And then it doesn't matter what two does or here. We just
So
end
why
up
do
with
we
0,
even
0.
consider that if it
Okay,
doesn't matter?
that's a good point. But the again the idea is that um, we have to consider it because if, for example, I predict one going down here,
Mhm.
that prediction depends on what two does here, which depends on what one would do up here, even though one never does it.
But it's still there.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So I'm thinking, I'm person one. I'm thinking, should I ask person two or not? I have to think about, will this person say yes? And I think, well, whether the person says yes or not depends on the threat of serenading, right?
Okay.
So maybe they'll say yes, and then therefore I'll ask them. So, or maybe or they'll say no, and I won't ask or whatever. But that threat of the serenade is in my mind, even though I never actually do it.
The fact that it was a choice
Yeah,
or a
exactly.
strategy or
Yeah,
like outcome.
it is possible that two will make the two's choice based on what I would, by the serenade thing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
The other way to think about it is just there's no reason not to. You might as well just maybe it's a little bit of extra work, but it's not that big a deal. So
Okay.
okay. All right. So I think there's a little bit of a. These should all be shifted down. I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I kind
Okay.
of
So
yeah.
this goes this like this.
Sorry about
It's
that.
okay. Anyway, so if one plays not and serenade, or for that matter not, it's always going to be 0, right? And so
Yes.
the whole thing. So that's what explains these. Let's do this one. If one asks and then later serenades, and two refuses. So one asks,
Mhm.
two refuses, and then one serenades. So we end up all the way up here. That's the minus 100 and minus 20 here, right?
Okay.
That's where that comes from.
Okay.
Okay. How about here? This is where one asks
And he goes.
and two goes.
Two goes.
So it's this one, yeah. One asks, two goes, so it's 100 minus 10. Right. Okay. Is that clear?
So
Yeah.
one goes. Okay. Wait. What did we just do?
We did this
One
one.
acts,
Mm-hmm.
and then two.
No, this is person one. This is what one's doing.
Oh, okay. So
Right.
one acts, two goes. So we ignore these.
Yeah, exactly. If one asks and two goes, then it doesn't matter whether
What
there's a
number
serenade
two
or not.
does? Oh,
Exactly.
okay. Okay, got it.
That's why this one is also 100 minus 10, right?
Yes.
This is if one asks and two goes. It doesn't matter whether one serenades or not.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, I got it.
Let's do, so we did this and this one and this one. How about this one? This is when one asks, two refuses, and then one wimps out of the serenade. He doesn't do the serenade.
So
He ends
then
up
they get
here.
negative 50.
Yeah. And this is negative 5.
Why
Yeah.
am I missing negative 5? Okay. Okay, so I get it.
Does
I
that make sense?
understand. Yes.
Yeah, so you write down all the possible contingent plans here.
And this is
And
for
here.
all Nash equilibrium?
Okay, so this is if you want to find all Nash equilibria of this game, right? So you take this and make it into a matrix, and then just do Nash equilibria like we normally do, which is
Which are
stars and pluses.
stars
Right?
pluses.
I think
Okay.
so if we do that quickly, that's this, this, and this. So yeah, this is one, and this is one. That's what you wrote down, right?
Mhm.
So this is a Nash equilibrium, this is a Nash equilibrium, this is one.
Okay.
Okay, so
Gotcha.
that's if you want to find all Nash equilibria, that's what you have to do.
Okay.
Okay.
But how do we come to how do we get our Nash equilibriums? By doing this? Do we do
Oh
that?
yeah, I did the stars and pluses. That's
Okay.
what I did.
Okay. So
Okay.
now with backward induction,
Okay.
I know you say
All
you
right.
start from a backward
Okay.
game.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just. I'm going to stop this because there's a limited 15 minutes on YouTube. So.